My fingers traced the soft silk of a blouse, the cool fabric momentarily distracting me from the mental grocery list taunting me in the back of my mind. Suddenly, a flicker of movement in the periphery caught my eye. It was subtle, a twitch in the fabric curtain separating two clothing sections. Intrigued, I spun around, the blouse forgotten in my hand, my heart hammered against my ribs. A frantic drum solo in the sudden silence. There, half hidden behind a rack of neatly folded jeans, stood a man. He wasn't just any man, though. A black ski mask obscured his face, the only feature visible a pair of eyes, or at least where I imagine eyes to be. They glinted through the mesh, two dark pools staring directly at me. A cold dread washed over me. Why was someone wearing a ski mask in a brightly lit department store? It wasn't even winter. The air crackled with a tension I couldn't explain. Then, as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. The figure vanished behind the rack of jeans in a blur of black fabric. I took a shaky breath, willing my pounding heart to slow down. Had I imagined it? Was the stress of a looming deadline finally messing with my head? With trembling hands, I hung the blouse back on its rack. The fabric felt clammy against my skin, a stark contrast to the chilling sweat beading on my forehead. I glanced back at the spot where the masked figure had been, but there was nothing there, only a neat row of jeans, their bland color a stark reminder of the normalcy that had just been shattered. Forcing myself to move, I wandered through the remaining aisles, but the carefree ease with which I had browsed moments before was gone. Every shadow seemed to hold a hidden menace, every rustle a potential threat. My shopping list, forgotten on the kitchen counter, seemed a distant memory now, replaced by the unsettling image of the masked man and his unnerving gaze. The wind howled like a banshee, a relentless assault that threatened to rip the umbrella from my grasp. Rain lashed against my face, blurring the world into a watery mess. Exhausted after a long day of work, all I craved was the sanctuary of my car and the warmth of home, but the elements seemed determined to prolong my misery. Fumbling with the keys, I practically threw myself into the car, collapsing into the driver's seat with a sigh of relief. The engine sputtered and coughed to life, a comforting rumble amidst the storm's fury. As I pulled out of the brightly lit parking lot, the harsh glare of the street lamps momentarily replaced the downpour's gloom. That's when I saw him. A fleeting glimpse through the rain-streaked windshield sent a jolt of terror through me. A figure, shrouded in shadow, crouched low behind a large hedge bordering the store's perimeter. It couldn't be, could it? The outline, the way it seemed to blend into the darkness, it was too familiar. Panic clawed at my throat. Was it the man from the store, the one in the ski mask? My breath hitched as I recognized the telltale bulge of a hood, the unmistakable black fabric blending with the shadows. Just as a surge of adrenaline propelled me to lean closer for a better look, a car pulled up in front of the hedge, its headlights momentarily blinding me. The figure vanished from view, swallowed by the sudden glare. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drum against my ribs. Was I seeing things? Was the stress finally getting to me? The other car pulled away, its taillights receding into the rain-soaked distance. With trembling hands, I wiped the condensation from the windshield, desperate for another glimpse, but the figure was gone. The hedge stood empty, its dark leaves swaying in the wind like a mocking audience. The memory of those dark eyes, glinting through the mesh of the ski mask, remained vivid in my mind, and the chilling certainty that I was being watched, a silent observer in the storm, lingered in the air like the damp, metallic tang of rain. The downpour had turned into a symphony of drumming rain on the car roof. Headlights speared through the watery curtain, casting fleeting, distorted images on the asphalt. Relief flooded me as I turned onto my familiar street, the warm glow of my house lights a beacon in the storm. Reaching my driveway, I fumbled for the garage door opener in my purse. The familiar click as the garage door began its slow ascent filled me with a sense of false security. Just a few more seconds and I'd be safe inside, the storm and whatever unease it brought banished. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As the garage door reached its halfway point, revealing the cavernous, empty space inside, a pair of headlights blazed through my rearview mirror, momentarily blinding me. Panic surged through me, a primal fear that something was terribly wrong. My foot slammed on the brake pedal just as a car screeched to a halt behind mine, blocking any escape. The headlights flicked off, plunging me into darkness. My heart hammered a frantic tattoo against my ribs, each beat echoing in the sudden silence. Then, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was him, no doubt about it, the man from the store, the watcher from the hedge. Terror choked the scream that threatened to erupt from my throat. My mind raced, searching for an escape plan, My phone was buried deep within my purse, useless in the immediate danger. He approached slowly, his movements deliberate and calculated. The streetlight cast an eerie glow on his black figure, highlighting the menacing silhouette. He stopped just outside my window, his gloved hand reaching into his coat pocket. My breath caught in my throat. A metallic glint caught the sliver of light filtering through the car window. My breath hitched as I recognized the unmistakable shape of a gun. It was pointed directly at me. Every second stretched into an eternity, punctuated only by the ragged gasps escaping my lips. "Get out of the car," his voice grated, a distorted echo through the closed window. It lacked any humanity, a guttural growl that sent shivers down my spine. Slowly, with agonizing deliberateness, I fumbled with the locks, my fingers slick with a cocktail of sweat and terror. The door clicked open, and a wave of frigid air washed over me, instantly stealing the warmth the car had offered. The rain, a relentless assault moments before, now seemed almost welcoming compared to the terror gripping me. He stepped back slightly, never wavering in his aim. "Get in the other car," he commanded, his voice a low growl that barely penetrated the storm's fury. My mind reeled. What did he want? Where was he taking me? The questions were a maddening echo in the storm-racked night, but with the gun a constant reminder of my vulnerability, I had no choice but to comply. Taking a deep, shaky breath that felt like sandpaper scraping against my raw throat, I approached the passenger side of his car. As I reached for the door handle, a sudden surge of defiance sparked within me. With a burst of adrenaline, I lunged forward, aiming for his legs. The impact sent us both sprawling onto the wet pavement. The world seemed to slow down as the gun clattered a few feet away, ejected from his grasp in the struggle. This was my chance, my only chance. But before my fingers could brush against the cold metal, searing pain lanced through my shoulder. Ears welled up in my eyes, blurring my vision as warm blood slicked down my arm. He stood over me, a menacing figure in the shadows, a glint of cruel moonlight reflecting off the blade of a knife he brandished. The gun lay forgotten on the ground, a silent testament to the fight we just had. The struggle was over before it truly began. Weakened and disoriented by the searing pain, I slumped against the ground, a whimper escaping my lips as despair washed over me. He snatched the gun from the pavement with a snarl and pointed it back at my head. "Get in the car," he growled, his voice devoid of any emotion but cold, calculated menace. Defeated, I crawled into the passenger seat, tears mixing with the rain on my face, as he slid behind the wheel, the engine roaring to life. The car lurched to a stop on a deserted side road. Rain lashed against the windshield, blurring the world outside. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic counterpoint to the storm's relentless drumming. He turned towards me, his features hidden in the shadows of the ski mask. This was it. This was where the nightmare would truly begin. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a blinding flash of blue lights erupted in the rearview mirror. My breath hitched in my throat. Sirens wailed in the distance, a sound that had never been so welcome in my life. The masked figure froze, a flicker of panic replacing his earlier menace. The car door on my side flew open with a bang. A uniformed officer, his face a grim mask of determination, stood there. "Get out of the car, ma'am," he barked, his voice laced with urgency. Relief flooded through me, so intense it felt like my legs would give way beneath me. "Yes," I croaked out, my voice thick with emotion. The officer's hand reached out, a beacon of safety in the storm. I stumbled out of the car, collapsing onto the rain-slicked pavement. Another officer materialized on the other side of the vehicle, wrestling the masked figure out with a practiced efficiency. He struggled, but the officer's training quickly subdued him. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the storm of emotions within me calmed enough for me to see his face clearly for the first time. It was younger than I expected, his features etched with a mix of anger and confusion. "What's going on here?" he snarled at the officer, his voice raspy. The officer ignored him, turning towards me with a concerned gaze. "Are you all right, ma'am?" I managed a shaky nod, the memory of my actions flooding back. With trembling hands, I had dialed 911 moments before. "Excellent thinking, ma'am," the officer said with a nod, understanding dawning in his eyes. "We've been tracking the call for the past few minutes. Thanks to you, we were able to intervene before anything worse happened." As they led the masked figure away, my eyes followed him. He turned back for a fleeting moment, his gaze locking onto mine. This time, though, there was no menace in his eyes, only a flicker of something that might have been fear, or maybe even gratitude.